We've got, I don't know why I'm laughing, because actually I already do know it's not very comfortable for you, lovely, is it? Actually, your voice hurts.
Yeah, sorry to everyone, but deal with it.
Yeah. So potentially you will hear a lot more of me today. And I won't be, I'm maybe asking Lauren quite so many questions. But I'm very positive, Lauren, bearing in mind we've got good sound on the mics, that you will still be contributing hugely to this.
Yeah.
And I say to this because I've got a couple of conversations I'd really love us to have over the next couple of episodes. And these two things really fit well together, and they've come from some personal work for me, and some things that I Lauren must love this. I'm just going to say this and then look at her face. When I get really excited about something or something that I've learned, and I am like a little puppy. I'm like, I need to tell you this now. And also because I think for me a big part of this is that the nervous system. I knew almost 5 years ago, when we first started, looking at all of this stuff, I already knew that some of this was incredibly important, and that things needed to be different in my own life because in essence, the Blonde Restoration Limited, we know, and we've shared, I think we've shared this before, was created because of the challenges we were both facing, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everywhere.
Yeah. We were our own client.
Yeah, we were.
In every possible avenue.
And everything that we've done, it really has come from this, this absolute want to and desire to understand. So today, before I waffle slightly, I could feel myself there, before I waffle slightly, I want to talk about something called the window of tolerance. Now, Lauren, when you hear that, are there any thoughts that go through your head when you hear me say that?
So it reminds me actually of this time that I went to Saltburn Beach with Dave back before Arlo existed. I think I was pregnant. No, can't have been pregnant because I was on my period. And I was walking over the stones at the top of the beach and it really fucking hurt. It hurt so much. And I cried. And I remember getting to the top of the beach and being like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm just walking on some stones, but it really hurts. And Dave was like, okay, so you're on your period. Yeah. I think we just moved into Brambles Farm, so it was like there was a lot going on emotionally. COVID, do you know what I mean? Like there was a lot.
There was a lot.
So for me, that's like my window of tolerance was fucking minute, and therefore my body was like, nope, any pain is the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So that's what came up.
No, that's a really great example. And I'm going to share one of mine, if that's okay, which echoes literally what you were saying. And it's really fascinating to me because I have held back slightly, I think, from sharing where I've struggled, and where things have been more challenging. And there's been this little voice, I can hear it in the back of my head going, oh, you can't show any kind of struggle. You can't be the person that, needs.
You can't be a coach if you've had troubles.
Let's not even go into that. I'm going to repeat that just in case anybody didn't fully hear that. But what Lauren just said is you can't be a coach if you've had any troubles. If I tell you that has been a big thing in my head for months, how can I be somebody that does this if this is what I'm feeling? Bearing in mind, I understand this. I'm a trained counsellor. I do understand, and that's the reason why I need support. It's the reason why I need, another human being to talk to, that supports me and understands me and spots the things for me that, are the patterns and the loops that I get into. So alongside that, though, I also do my own work. And really look at things. And one of the things that if you've been listening along to us, you'll understand that we've been doing is unlocking. And unlocking, this is the first episode that you've ever heard, this is a course that I have run as a group, which is where it is inspired by the Artist Way. We will do tasks such as morning pages, each of the participants get to go out and do what we call a date with themselves, so an individual date where they really put themselves first. And we do a number of different things that is echoed from the book, isn't it? the artist way. And I bring in a lot of different things that are going to support people.
It's like the Eyes way plus Jackie coaching. It's honestly, it's brilliant.
Well, we've finished
As
the
someone
group,
who's
haven't
been
we?
through
I was
it,
about to say you have a real experience. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a pink book in my hand because actually this is book 4 of my morning pages. And if you haven't got us on YouTube, I'm going to read a little bit from this, which I wouldn't normally do, I've got to tell you. Because my morning pages are, and this is what's so divine about them, they are just a place to really dump my thoughts. 3 A4 pages every morning, takes anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes as I'm doing it. And when I talk about ventilating my brain and getting the windows open in my head, it is one of the best things I've ever done. And the idea is that you don't go back and read them all the time. What's happening though, the more that I do them, I am noticing patterns as I'm writing. So I've gone back through, I've looked at my books, I've highlighted things already because that's one of the things that you do after about 9 weeks of writing them. But we're past that now. We're into the second set of 90 days as a group. And what I noticed, I'm just going to read a little bit to you from this, which is fascinating. It says, I've written, "Come on, Jack, get your finger out. Stop letting, what's the point?" And at that moment, I've realised that there is what's the point going on in my head. So just for context, I'm writing these pages. There's a lot of stuff going on. I can see it on the other words, but I'm not going to read all the other words to you. But I can see it in the other words. There's a lot going on in my head. And I can feel this part of me that's getting angry at me. And I can notice it. That's telling me to get my finger out. And the minute what's the point happens, I then write, oh, I'm still outside my window, because I'd started to learn about the window of tolerance. I still don't feel safe. Aha, there it is. I still don't feel safe. And I realised, and I've written it, threats all around me in my perception. So it doesn't mean that they're threats. It doesn't mean that I'm not safe. But to me and my body, I don't feel safe in a particular number of areas. And, I've got some things written down here. My health, my well-being, my fitness, money, little things like that. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment. So I started to write all of these things down. Then it's fascinating. I hadn't underlined this, but I've written this. I'll read it to you. I put window of tolerance, you bloody beauty, and capacity. Fucking bingo. I don't perceive myself as safe because fear of rejection and all that stuff. And literally, that's where I went to with this. And I stopped at that point because I was at the end of my 3 pages. But it just struck me that, I was outside of my window of tolerance. So I just want to share with you a little bit of the science behind it, because this is a concept developed by Dan Siegel. And what he says is the window of tolerance describes the zone where your nervous system is functioning well, and inside it you can think clearly, feel emotions without being consumed by them, make decisions, connect with other people, be present in your body, and handle the ordinary challenges of daily life. Now, really importantly, it's not about being calm all the time. It's about having enough capacity to stay present with whatever's happening. That literally fascinated me. And I was like, I went back into it, because one of the things that I have learned massively over the years, and I forget at times until I'm back in my zone and I do feel safe, is that things take practice.
Yeah.
Our brains set up like, super highways in our heads of connections, which become the patterns and the loops that we follow until we begin to notice them and then practice new loops. And you know what? That takes self-compassion, and that takes, kindness for ourselves and understanding. It takes a bit of Mother Bear energy, because when you don't want to keep on doing it, it's the part of you that goes, get on with it. Come on. I've got you back. Not in a horrible way, not in a mean way, but as in no, you can do this. And it will be worth it in the long run.
Pull, not push.
Yeah, exactly. That part of me. And it's really fascinating, because in my head now, all I can see is a window. And I shared this recently on one of my emails. Found a glorious picture of a window. And what's really fascinating when you think about this window of tolerance, and if you imagine it right now, there are areas outside of this window. And Lauren has just, in her story, described one area, and fascinatingly, I described another. So I'll explain a little bit more. So your Saltburn story that you've just shared, this was where, you felt that sense of anxiety, didn't you? I can't do this. It's too much. It's like again, you're probably quite wired, feeling like, oh, there's just too much stimulation. And one of the areas that we move into is hyperarousal. Yeah. So if you think about two areas, one above, one below, this window, when it's too much for us, we will go one of these two places. So hyperarousal, too much activation. This is the up and out direction, yeah? So just noticing racing thoughts, anxiety that won't switch off, feeling like you want to snap at people. Even though you don't particularly want to snap at people, but you do snap at people. So this isn't everything that was going on for you, but there's a moment where you can hear that. Feeling overwhelmed by small things. So for some people, this will show up as can't sit still. Being awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyone, hands up if you've ever been wide awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Everything feels urgent and threatening. You feel wired and exhausted at the same time. Oh, you do. I can feel the...
Yeah, I'm really I think a lot of mums are going to relate to that.
Yeah.
That moment where it's even though in other times it wouldn't wind you up, with the TV's on, you can hear them eating, your husband's trying to talk to you, and all of a sudden you're aware of the dishes, and you're aware of the dust on the baseboards, and you're aware of, and all of these things, and it's the hyper-arousal.
Yeah.
It's like all of my senses have been dialed up to 37 when they sit at 5.
Yeah.
And I'm now it's too much noise, it's too much touch, take my necklace off, why is my hair touching my face? And it's like that, and then Dave will be like, you're right. And I'm like, don't fucking look all right.
Yeah. And
that was really high pitched.
That was quite high
I'm
pitched.
so impressed with the noises I'm making right now.
Exactly. There will be animals across the world that will have heard that. That was on another level. But that's the point, isn't it? And actually, if we think about neurodiversity, we already know that has...
the
and
tendency
this
to go
will
there.
impact our window of tolerance. So the opposite place, though, and this is where I went when I was doing my writing and I was sat in, this is hypo. So one is hyper, one is hypoarousal. This is too little activation. This is down and to go inward in ourselves now. Numbness, shutdown, can't get off the sofa, scrolling for hours without really seeing anything that you're looking at, feeling disconnected from yourself and others. A sense of flatness, which I know a number of people that I speak to tell me that one. Nothing feels real. It's like going through the motions. And for me, this is where what's the point comes in.
When I go there, that's when I worry. I don't really worry when I go into arousal. I think I'm kind of, I don't know. But when I go there, that's when I go, oh, hang on.
And it's interesting because it's spotting the clues, and actually there's the clue for me now. I know it the minute I hear what's pointing in my head, which is just it's a protective pattern to go into these places. And I think that's really important for me to say this right now. It's actually the noticing. So you're far more quicker to notice the going into hypoarousal than you are to notice I've gone into hyperarousal. So
because the hyperarousal was a sign of when I was in deep depression and burnout. Yeah. That's where I went. Yeah. I just couldn't feel anything. That's why I drank so much, because I just wanted to feel anything.
Yeah. And to be able to be there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fascinating to kind of see this in that way. And it's I think really important. I wrote this down, and I'm going to tell you what's also really important is this whole feeling of being safe and the fact that I have notes in my hand. And I have, since we started this podcast, on occasion said to you, I can't believe I've got to have notes, but I need notes. But actually, this makes me feel safe because due to menopause, I know that the way that my cognitive functions happen has changed. And that I was the woman who remembered everything. We've just been talking about it in the car, haven't we? I was the woman that remembered, I have 4 kids, a dog, 2 jobs. I could remember so many things. Yes, I had a little diary that was on the wall, a calendar that I put, different things in, but I remembered people's names. I ran groups with hundreds of people in. I knew all of their names. I remembered things about them. I didn't need to rely on things. I do now. And it's been interesting for me because this is also a thing that's meant that I haven't felt safe. So when I actually start to look at these things, it's no wonder I'm outside of my window of tolerance often and feeling either anxious or getting to a point where it's just like, it's too much and I'm overwhelmed. Because actually that's what this is. This is a nervous system that's overwhelmed and it just takes us into these places. So I want to talk about, though, why some windows are narrower. Because what would be wrong, I feel, is for us to sit here and think that we've all got the same width of window of tolerance. And we don't. And some people's are narrower because it will depend on your experiences as you grew up. And then what have been your experiences since then? So if you grew up somewhere that was, a really safe, consistent childhood, where it felt like you were regulated, so you were heard, seen, valued. Yes, you had moments. I'm thinking of Arlo, where he has those moments, and actually for him, he knows that he's got parents that it's okay, like to not be okay. And somebody will talk to him. We had this experience this weekend, didn't we? And I commented on it with the women in our family. We were talking about it because we were talking about how 2 generations ago to have two little people, 1 4, 1 3.5, get so upset, that it'd probably have been like not tolerated well, and that there would have been a lot of snappy. And I can see now that these people were outside their window of tolerance, but there would have been a lot of snapping, a lot of not okay, or sure, I'll give you something to cry about, that kind of thing. And there was none of that. And I know for my generation and with you guys, I wasn't that parent so much. I was very much more tolerant and very much more, oh my God, they're tired. They're not okay. Yesterday on the way on the bus into the city, I noticed Arlo is a little bit snotty, and I was like, there he is. He's not 100%, is he? And I'm like, oh God, love you. No wonder you're a little bit snappy. No wonder you're feeling like that, sweetheart. Like, do you need more hugs? And he got more hugs. But it's this bit, and we were talking about it, that actually this generation now are realising that it's okay to have feelings, be emotional, that actually we are dealing with a lot of stuff, so much more than my generations ever did. But actually, it is, and also different. So what overwhelms us? So difficult things happen when you've been in, like, for anybody, don't they? So, but when you've been regulated as a child, when you've had consistent safe attachment, it creates a really wide window. So for Arlo, you're helping him build a really wide window of tolerance because he knows that he can have those things happen to him, but he can come back out of it quickly. Yeah. Chronic stress, trauma, difficult early experiences. Here's ones for mums. Substantial and sustained emotional load. So being the ones that deal with everything, these narrow the window over time. Not permanently. That's really important. We need to understand that.
It's
they have a
interesting
significant impact.
Privilege is coming up in my head a lot here. And the difference between let's say you've got 2 kids who lead the exact same life. They've got the same parents. They get the same love, the same affection. But one is judged for their skin colour and one is not. The window of tolerance for the one who feels judgment based on how they exist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is going to be so... What a gorgeous way to explain privilege is that actually the window for them is narrower to begin with.
Exactly.
And therefore, when it stretches in... it might not even stretch to as wide as your window of tolerance.
That'll be, I'm not safe in my own skin.
Yeah.
So when we think about it, this is why safety matters.
It's a really clever way to think about it, actually.
For me, it's like, it explains, what you were saying there, somebody else coming across that, just to come back to your example of Saltburn, somebody else that wasn't experiencing all of those things that you were experiencing.
They might think I'm pathetic or an idiot.
Yeah, because it's like, so I've written here, so things that wouldn't touch someone else, an awkward email, a difficult conversation. Oh, it's just made me think about, when you get that message, I nearly said a text, but we don't do text, do we? When we get that message and you react to it in a certain way, there's a clue there. I'm probably out of my window of tolerance because I might read that and go, she's all right. But if I'm reacting massively, And then I come back later. Can you see? That whole thing we say about come back later. I feel in a better place. I feel safer. I'm not feeling quite so judged by, there's other things not going on. Suddenly I don't react in exactly the same way to that message. I read it differently. We're not aware of what's going on for us. And it's this whole thing about, I've talked about before, this neuroception. Our body is constantly scanning for clues of safety, of danger, of threat. So it's working for us, and it's brilliant. We don't want it to switch up. It doesn't switch off. It's like a real foundation. But actually, for some of us, that what it can cope with is so much smaller.
It's a gorgeous analogy for PQ.
And we can build it.
Yeah.
So say more about the analogy for PQ.
So because obviously PQ is building the muscles of mental fitness.
Yeah.
So that you can handle more. Logistically is talking about learning to widen your window.
Yeah.
So but what he says, what Shazad says is that you will go through things that, just require more muscle because a death in the family or the fucking world that we're looking at right now, like it's heavy and it's difficult, and it means that we might have to work harder. So what we're saying is that is going to shrink your window of tolerance. So then you'd need to practice more. It's a perfect analogy for it, actually.
And
it's gorgeous.
Got some. I've actually got these on my phone. I've got them in my notes. I'm going to come back to that in just a second because I think this is really important to understand in exactly the same way that we talk about in positive intelligence, that you're building the muscle for mental fitness. You build this muscle of widening this window of tolerance, and it's understanding it, isn't it? I want to add in. So I said to you why some windows are narrower. Menopause. Hormonal shifts of perimenopause and menopause directly affect the nervous system and emotional regulation. If you bear in mind, and this really hit me in the feels, bearing in mind that I was diagnosed with CPTSD last year and ADHD traits, women with existing stress or trauma histories experience this more intensely. Oh, it's no wonder what I then went on to experience, the sad death of my cousin, my dad's, forgetting he had a family for the first time ever, when he's got dementia. Those things, and I have to say, it knocked the hell out of me and took me out of my window, and for quite a while I can feel that now, but I understand it better. And it's like, things that were manageable when you're going through perimenopause and menopause suddenly don't feel like they are. Your emotions feel bigger. Recovery takes longer. And I love this. I read this line that said, you're not falling apart. It's biology meeting history. That for me was like, wow. So importantly, it isn't just how narrow that window is. It's not come from one thing. It is the accumulation of things. It's the decade of invisible labour or the decades of invisible labour. Yeah. It's the emotional responsibility. It's been the one, I can feel it in me as I'm saying this, and the emotion behind it, the one that remembers the birthdays. The one that remembers that we need to pick so-and-so up from wherever, or, the one that, as you said earlier, notices the dust. Notices that things need sorting.
Knows that his feet are getting a little bit too small for his shoes.
All of that. So
Yeah.
these things, can you see that? It's this accumulation. It's the caring, the managing, the holding. And because this is so true for so many of the people that I work with, consistently putting yourself last until that becomes an invisible role that you do. It's like you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
But these are the things that narrow the window. So then each thing added to the load, unprocessed stress, unacknowledged grief, unmet needs, all, taking up space within us, narrow the window a little bit further. So there's a lot of these things that we do. It's like they just queue inside of us, and I know that the whole wording of this has moved on. It's not about things being stuck. It's about it being unprocessed, in that sense, in that way. So, I love this because this, for me, I wrote this and then you said exactly what you said, until something relatively small happens and you find yourself on the kitchen floor wondering why you can't cope anymore. And it's because you've just gone into overload and now you're outside of your window.
Or underload.
Yeah, or underload. It's literally one or the other. And that's, so it's noticing that for yourself, isn't it? And being able to think about it. So I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else to this point, but then I'm going to get down to the things that make a big difference on there.
I've got an image in my head of like a window with really heavy curtains on like an automatic, like opening and closing. And it's like the more things that happen that feel out of our control, the more closed the window gets.
The windows come.
And it's like and you're watching it like and then it's like you get a holiday where nobody's relying on you, where the weather's warm, where you don't have to think about fuel prices, where all of this stuff happens, and you're like, oh, why is this so easy? And it's like, because the curtains were open, babe. Your window of tolerance has gone back to normal.
Nobody needs me.
No,
it's such a point that
it's
nobody
that
needs me.
The reel that you put out that was like, why do we feel safer in cities that we don't know? But I remember, I still love that here. I love that. I'm not going to go into our local Tesco and see anyone I know. I truly love it. Yeah, interesting.
Again, I think that's an indicator of where our window of tolerance is.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting. And so, it's when we think about widening it and we think about what we need to do, the first thing to acknowledge is that it widens slowly.
Yeah, you don't just rip the curtains open.
And it is small, repeated experiences of safety. It isn't like one massive breakthrough that you do. This is about, and also, can I just point out, this is not about understanding it intellectually. So just because we've spoken about it, and you might, just because it's like, oh, no, I get the concept, we've got to practice it physically. So this is, accumulated lived experiences that teach your nervous system, I am safe. That's what we're looking for here, in that way. And fascinatingly, I am going to say the pages are one of them. They are a way of being able to process what's going on personally for me, in my head. This morning I noticed the part of me that gets really angry. I noticed the part of me that is, the one that starts to go towards what's the point. And I noticed it this morning, and I was like, interesting, what's going on? How come you're there? What do I need? So deliberate practices, just to give them to anyone that's listening. So daily nervous system regulation. And I would suggest that these are non-negotiables. These are the ones that we've got to get into practicing. 5 to 10 minutes every single day. Doing this like you're brushing your teeth. And think of it's things like, so for me, an example this morning, I'm now getting into a really good habit of looking at beachy out of my window. If you get my emails, you'll have seen the tree outside of our window. It's beautiful. The colour is absolutely stunning. Just taking 5 minutes. I set a timer and I just look at the tree. I just give myself a break, and other thoughts will come in. I don't give them a hard time. My brain, kind of goes in and out of stuff. I'm just noticing the tree. I'll notice my breath. I just take a moment. Sometimes I'll be sat and I feel my feet on the floor, give my toes a little bit of a wiggle, just relaxing into my own body and being consciously aware of what's going on for me. And that can feel really alien if we're not doing it. But it is important to kind of build that, to notice I'm safe. It's okay. I look around. I'm safe. It's absolutely fine to do that. So in terms of things that can help, something else I'm just thinking there's some on my notes here. Have you ever done the physiological sigh? Have you heard of it?
I don't know what that is.
2 quick inhales through the nose.
Oh, yeah.
And just a long exhale out. And again, so this, backed by science, it's the fastest known reset. Now, one of the ones that I learned, just a little bit different to that, is to take a full breath in. And at the top, take a second, smaller. Just let it go. That'd be fascinating, depending on where you're listening to that. But I will do that.
I like the idea of someone driving along in their car and it's just, like, as they go past someone, it just sounds like...
Let us know if it does. I will share that I do that in bed. So I can notice now when my body feels a little bit wired. And I will lay down on my side. And at that point then, I do the inhale all the way, take the little sharper inhale, and then I just let it out. And I do it twice. And what I tend to find is I go to sleep pretty quickly. And I relax a little bit more.
Interestingly, so I've never really thought about it, but I have quite a lot of pain in like my diaphragm and my ribs, which is where they think it might be the endometriosis living in me. So deep breaths and yawning hurts. And it's always been something that I just thought maybe I was breathing too deeply. So what I do, just like, I guess my version
this is
of
all
that
suggestions, yeah.
is like, I'll breathe in, and in my head, I imagine I'm breathing into all of my body because it makes it less pressure on my tummy.
Yeah.
Because and it's not, but in my head it is. And then when I breathe out, I have to get all of the air out from all of my body. So it's like and look, I'm a physicist. I know that I don't have air in my toes, right? But I'm like, has it gone from my legs? Has it gone from my toes? It's like all of it. Get all of it out. And I do it super slowly so it doesn't hurt.
Amazing.
And that's a really nice way.
Just to preface this, these are all suggestions. You may have your own. You know, you don't have to have a tree. It doesn't have to be a breath. I'm giving some suggestions. Orienting, which is something that I think I've done without even realising it. So slowly turning your head side to side. So once you've been activated, turning your head side to side, genuinely looking at what's around you. And this is a fascinating one because I find that I'll go off in my head. Like I can physically feel myself be in my head, watching my thoughts. So this is the opposite. Soft eyes, not scanning for danger. You're literally looking and saying to your nervous system, I've checked, there's no danger here. I'm not in danger, I'm safe. So you're telling your body you're safe. Yeah. Another one, grounding. So I know you love the feet flat on the floor. Notice the weight of your feet. There's another one to name the 5 things you can see, the 4 you can feel, 3 you can hear, and so on. 2 that you can smell, 1 you can taste. So you can do that in whatever order that you want to do in terms of taste, smell, sound, etc. But just having something that grounds you back in. Again, tells you safe, pulls you back into the present moment. And literally asking yourself, if you feel the sensations, understanding what are the sensations for you in your body when you don't feel safe? And asking yourself that. I tend to put my hand on my heart and go, right, okay, hang on. Am I in danger right now? And what often, that one generally I need to do if I've felt my brain going off and thinking, and I start to see myself catastrophize something. And I'm like, I notice it, come back. Am I actually in danger right now? Look around the room. Where am I? What can I see? Just bringing myself back into that moment. And again, just giving yourself that little bit of a gap so that you can, lessen the alarm and the threat and be able to, help yourself just come back into that moment as well.
This matters because your brain can't tell the difference between real danger and perceived danger.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If your brain is in a space where it feels like something is dangerous, it will keep you in whatever mode it's got you in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's noticing it, isn't it? I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is it's like the what's the point? It's like I'm in that space. I'm out of my window. This is what's going on for me. And I think I said it a little bit earlier. Just being kind to yourself with all of this, practicing self-compassion. You can, if you go on to Dr. Kristen Neff's self-compassion website, find an assessment that will help you assess your own self-compassion. I love it because if we're talking about the house of you, self-compassion is actually the building material. It's what we're using to build our house with and to make sure that it's safe. Little things for me, I will tell you as well, just to give you an example of something that makes me feel safe, writing notes. Writing things down the minute that I think them, because of what I said a little bit earlier about feeling like my memory doesn't work in exactly the same way. Just being able to keep myself, you've done it, voice notes, little notebook, anything, simple systems that help me to feel safe.
So if you don't follow Em Schindel on Instagram, you should, because she talks about this, about the systems to make you feel. And I don't think she even realises that this is what she's doing. But it's little things like, let's say on a morning, you're always scrambling to find your keys. You never know where you've put them. You don't know if they're in your bag or if you've thrown them on the table. Put a hook on the wall. Put a hook on the wall. You walk in the door, you put the key on the hook. That's it. That's the system. That's all it is. And that tiny system so that you're safe knowing, oh, I know where my keys are. So it means that your body's not going into that place where it's like, I'm in a rush, I don't know what I'm doing. No, that, like, as tiny as that.
Yeah. And it fascinates as you're talking there, and I know we're coming towards the end now. I just want to share a little thing for me, which I think you could follow along and find out as we go with the podcast. Because I know that I have never, that's a big word to use. I'm just going to retract that word. I have often in my life not felt safe in my own body, and clothes have not been a thing of safety for me. And it's interesting rebuilding that now and feeling safe in my body as it is right now without having to change it or do anything else different. And one of the things that I've realised is this massive overwhelm that I have with the number of clothes that I have. And I always used to think that it was this really fun thing to have loads of clothes. And I realise now why people have a uniform. And I don't mean a uniform as in a physical uniform, but they wear a particular set of clothes. Or, you know, have a, what's the word? It's gone out of my head. It's completely gone, where you have a set of clothes.
A staple wardrobe?
Something like that. There's another word for it as well. But that kind of thing, there's an example straight away of the menopause. But it's that kind of thing where actually you reduce the impact and the overwhelm of what you need to wear the next day. You know, having, and I think about this with your Nana, you know, the number of clothes that she had, and she didn't wear most of them. Whereas actually, you know, having things that you really love, that you can reach for, that you feel great in, reduces that overwhelm first thing in the morning. Because generally, that's one of the reasons why it takes me a long time to get ready. It's because I go through a whole out of my window of tolerance, activation, anxiety, all of that. So even just noticing that for me today, and, you know, sharing that helps me to realise, actually, there's a way to make myself feel safe and what I'm able to do with it. So I want to leave us with the thought that understanding your window of tolerance is powerful, really powerful. And I would stay tuned for the next episode of The Blondes and Know Your Matter, because there's something that sits right alongside it though, and that is capacity. Because your window doesn't exist in isolation. It's directly affected by what you pour into you. Imagine yourself like a jug every single day. And what is it that you never put back? And that's where we're going to go next. So any questions, any thoughts, as always, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to share your stories of where you can spot now, you go out of your window of tolerance. And if you've also got ways in which you get back in, you know, ways in which you regulate, things that help you. Knitting's one of mine, just so you know. Lauren's embroidery does that for her, most definitely, and her painting. We'd love to know. So take care.
Bye.